Big delts, how do you grow them? Let's cover it in this video. My experience. The key to growing big delts here, guys, is pick a compound movement, a vertical pressing compound movement as your bread and butter movement. For me, that's the standing barbell overhead press, so OHP. There's no problem with doing this seated. You guys can totally do this seated. I know some people like to do it from pins, but if I was gonna give my best recommendation, I would say, bring the bar all the way down to your chest, like you see me doing here. Press it all the way up to a full lockout and shrug at the very top. I would pick either a seated barbell overhead press or a standing barbell overhead press. Yes, dumbbells are an alternative, and even I did them for years before I even tried the barbell overhead press. But hands down, I saw my fastest and best overall growth through this exercise. And it's not just, picking up and repping it out every workout. You actually have to have a plan, a protocol. You have to be able to overload it. There has to be periods where you're really pushing the limits of your recovery in this movement pattern to really see true growth. As you see here, my best overall press is a 225 strict press, which you guys are going to see here in a minute. And it took some real strategic programming and just years and years of pounding away at this exercise. So another thing, guys, is it's not gonna come overnight. You gotta be patient. You gotta be willing to not sacrifice form, just to be able to increase poundages on the bar, because that's gonna come over time. It's picking this big heavy compound movement, sticking with it, and executing every single week, just like any other exercise. I'm overall really happy with the amount of development and progress I've made thus far doing it, but just like I said, stick with it. I'm still sticking with it. I still have growing to do, and it doesn't end here for me. The dumbbell row has been my bread and butter for the posterior deltoids, so the part of the deltoid in the back of the body. Now, this isn't even necessarily a deltoid exercise or a shoulder exercise. It's a back exercise, but there are variations that can really target the delts. But in general, just any sort of dumbbell row, horizontal row with one arm, will really hit your posterior delts. I would say the only real issue with this exercise, guys, is because you're in this bent over position, it does require a little bit of axial loading, so it does load the spine a little bit, and can screw around with your recovery when it comes to your leg exercises, especially your hip hinge movements, because it uses up a little bit of the recovery in the lower back. So don't just wing it and think, okay, you know what, great for the posterior delts, I'm just gonna hammer this exercise 3 to 4 times a week. And yes, higher frequency usually does mean you're gonna get better overall development, but plan it. You know what I mean? Do some chest supported rowing. I'm actually gonna show you that here in a minute, because you can really overload your chest supported rowing and not really load up the spine so much, which will cause issues with your lower body exercises. Now, again, guys, these are back exercises. There are obviously tons of other variations you guys can do for your rear delts, and this is just my experience and what I have done over the years for my development. I personally think if you're doing enough rowing, especially chest supported rowing, you're gonna get all the development you need. And again, guys, I can't stress how much this comes down to time. A lot of guys will discount, really hammering a certain exercise just because they don't want to do it long enough to really reap the benefits. And the final exercise I do for my rear delts, or just shoulders in general, would be face pulls. Extremely good for shoulder health, really balances out the shoulder, and it obviously really activates the rear delts. Okay, guys, real simple. I didn't want to complicate it for you because I do keep most of my training real simple. I just try to be efficient at it. Give this a shot. I really hope it helps some of you guys out. And again, time, consistency, and just execute.